If you're trying to decide what bike to buy, what bike is right for you, there are two questions you need to have the answer to. And the first one is simple. What kind of bike do you like the look of the best? The right answer is the honest one. The wrong answer is the bike you think others will approve of. So if you've always wanted a Kawasaki Ninja, go get a Ninja 400. Now, my dad loves cruisers, so I bought a cruiser mostly for him, and it wasn't the right bike for me. Now, that's not to say that cruisers are bad. In fact, later in this video, we're gonna learn kind of just the opposite of that. And that's what's at stake, right? You don't wanna spend lots of money on a bike that isn't what you want. And that's what this video will help you with. Now, the second question, that's a lot harder to answer. And before we can even get into that, we need to explain what makes all the bikes different. There's a lot more to it than just the seating position, bodywork, chrome, and handlebars. We need to understand some basic motorcycle anatomy. And more specifically, we need to understand motorcycle geometry, which is just a mathematical way of describing the relationship between the wheels and the frame. I'm gonna simplify things, so if you're brand new to this and you are already feeling overwhelmed with the information you're wading through, this will help things make a lot more sense. So this is a motorcycle frame, and this is the headset. And we wanna pay a lot of attention to this angle. Now, these are called triple clamps, and they live in the headset for the steering. And why these are so important is what's called the offset, which is how far forward the fork tubes are from the steering stem. This is the swing arm, and the important part is the length and the angle. The distance between where the tires touch the ground is called the wheelbase. And then the suspension. We want to know how much travel we have. Other things we need to pay attention to are the weight and the height of the bike, and lastly, the wheel size. You see, what makes a cruiser and what makes a sport bike involves all of these traits, because they define what it's like to ride that bike, how it accelerates, stops, and turns. A longer wheelbase makes a bike more stable, but more reluctant to turn. A lower center of gravity is going to be more stable, but also harder to lean and change direction. Bigger wheels are more stable and are better at rolling over bumps, but take more energy to accelerate, slow down, and to change direction. Front wheels come in lots of different sizes and make a huge difference with how the bike handles. And then there's rake, and that's the same thing as caster. This is the angle of the forks, and you can see this with the difference between a cruiser with 45 degrees of rake and a sport bike with 25 degrees of rake. More rake makes the wheelbase longer and it increases trail, which brings us to the most important number of them all, trail. Trail is the distance between the front wheel's contact with the ground and an imaginary line drawn through the axis of the steering head, not the forks. This is why the offset of the triple clamp is such a big deal. A small change in the offset can dramatically alter the trail independently of rake. Remember, trail is the most important number to pay attention to. A lot of trail makes a bike really stable. Not a lot of trail makes a bike really nimble. The reason why I bring this up is because rake, the thing that most people bring up and that we can see at a glance, doesn't tell us nearly as much as the trail number. We're still not quite ready to ask that second question yet, but we're getting there. So a cruiser, long wheelbase, lots of weight down low, long swing arm, long forks raked way out, big giant front wheel, and typically a bigger trail number. We can get an extremely good idea about what it's going to be like to ride. It's going to be extremely stable, but at the cost of what? It's not going to be very nimble, right? Now, let's go to the other extreme, the sport bike. Short wheelbase, higher center of gravity, low weight, steep forks, short trail number, and small wheels. It's going to want to change direction, but at the cost of what? So we can really see the appeal of cruisers, especially for newer riders. A low center of gravity, a low seat height, so it's easy to get the feet on the ground, and they are famously stable. And in today's world, some cruisers aren't even all that heavy anymore. The Honda Rebel 500 weighs less than many sport bikes. Within each segment of bikes, there's a wide range of differences. Cruisers range from choppers to power cruisers, for example. But other popular styles of bikes are the naked bike, the sport touring bike, the touring bike, the adventure bike, the enduro bike, motards. It gets really confusing, right? But let's look at a dual purpose or adventure bike. It might have 19 or 21-inch wheels. What does that tell us? Big wheels are more stable and deal with bumps better. They tend to have a longer wheelbase, but a higher center of gravity for more ground clearance. They tend to have more suspension travel, so they are plush on bumpy roads, but might feel wallowy or vague on a fast, twisty road. But let's compare the all-important trail numbers. If a cruiser typically has a trail number of 135 millimeters, and a sport bike has a trail number of 85 millimeters, our big adventure bike will have a trail number typically of 106 millimeters, right in the middle. What does that tell us? It's no wonder these style of bikes have become so popular, right? This is why you're right to be so concerned about what bike you should choose. And now that you understand the geometry a little bit better, especially the importance of trail, you can go through the specs listed for any motorcycle and start to understand what that bike is going to be like to ride. And that brings us to the second question that we need to have the answer to. And that's, what kind of riding experience are you looking for? Again, no right or wrong answer here, but honesty will get you a better end result. What kind of riding do you want to do? When you close your eyes and imagine yourself riding, what do you see? Do you want to take the weekend and wander off to your nearest national park? Or do you want to head up to get breakfast with your buddies on Sunday morning? Do you want to go through corners in your local canyon or at a local track day? Or do you just want to commute so you get the good parking spaces up on campus? Define the riding experience you want, and finding the right bike suddenly gets a whole lot easier. That's why the best beginner bike doesn't exist. Sport bikes aren't better than cruisers or vice versa or any of that, because the best beginner bike, hell, the best bike, is the bike that is best for you. And if you're still not sure, may we recommend a basic naked bike. Why? Because like the adventure bike, it's a jack of all trades but master of none. And that's not a bad thing. As a newer rider, a naked bike will help you discover the kind of riding you actually enjoy the most. You don't want to buy a plastic-wrapped super bike to discover you actually enjoy a more laid-back, meandering experience, or vice versa. A naked bike can tour, do a track day, it can commute, it's comfortable, has good visibility, and has very neutral geometry. But if even after all of this, you're still not sure what style of bike is right for you, this video will use the wisdom of Star Wars to help you narrow down the style of bike that's right for you, in a way that's pretty fun. It's an older video,
but it checks out.
Guys, thanks so much for watching. Ride on and ride well.